Welcome back to another episode of Exile's podcast. I'm Brooks. This is Cory. We're the Raley brothers.
Today we're going to talk about our move to Southlake, why we chose to come to DFW, and then talking confidence built in rifles and avoiding that buyer's remorse.
Last kind of one, we were kind of discussing the move, the big move.
Yeah.
Getting from Uvalde to Southlake into the DFW area. Man, just the challenges of that, of getting up here and not having a really good business model, brand identity, the logo, all the things that we buttoned up over the last probably year and a half.
Yeah, I think the product was there. You know, we really felt confident. We were building accurate rifles. We had, our manufacturing process down. We really felt confident that we'd come here and be successful right at the bat from a rifle standpoint. But another big reason was coming up here is like really getting the brand figured out and really finding a company that's local that we could go in and meet with. Trying to find marketing companies in Uvalde and doing everything remote and just trying to like really connect. I feel like we have a somewhat difficult product to talk to maybe people that don't exactly understand it. But once you get in, once you feel the rifles, once you do all that, you can like, oh, makes sense now. Let me show you this.
Right.
Now try ours. And it's like, oh, it's
right.
like, it's so physical. It's such a touch thing. Like all the components, they all have like a personal preference, somewhat. Mm-hmm. And just even people that never hunted before, you can feel the difference in weight. You can see the length difference. You can be like, oh, that would be pretty cumbersome to put in a truck and lug around and things like that.
I mean, we started I think we first sketched the E, right? You pick a Exile name, like, man, it's pretty cool. That guy's not cut from this cloth, and I like it. But then you actually get down in the weeds of it, and you're like, not many people pick a logo or a word starts with an E.
Yeah.
And then we found out how difficult it was to make a cool logo out of an E, right?
Yeah, you think about all those companies that have like great brands like Nike and Apple and all that. You're like, oh, they're so clean. We'll do the same thing.
Right.
Like, wait a minute.
We got a big old E on the middle of a hat kind of deal.
We did like a home plate. That was like the first.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it was on brand for sure. But just the evolution of that, right? 3 companies later, countless investments to kind of get where we are, understanding who we are and what our goal was, right? Like I told you from the jump, like I'm not trying to build a company that's in a garage. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with being a gunsmith that builds rifles shorthand, but we were trying to scale. We want to build the best rifle anybody can buy. We want to compete with Gunworks. We want to be a front runner in that, and brand identity is a big part of that.
Oh yeah.
And obviously, as Western as we could be, we're outsiders, outlaws, all that kind of stuff. That was something that we found we were pretty passionate about.
Yeah.
But just knowing that, me and you, essentially, the logo that we now have, we drew on a napkin. We're like, man, someone's got to be able to put an E and an X together.
Yeah.
That looks good.
Yeah, with like a Western.
There's got to be.
Tie into
right. And then you kind of lean into barbed wire and like, well, not sideways. How do we get it vertical? And then you start rounding corners out and stuff. And it's been super cool process.
Yeah.
But I always had the vision that like, man, I have loved, heritage and generational stuff and heirlooms and value, right? Like you buy a pair of boots, like I've always appreciated Lucchese. Like Tecovas makes good boot too, but it's like the heritage of Lucchese was something that's always attracted me. Like they're proud of what they do. They've done it for a long time.
Yeah.
And you just see that cursive, Lucchese across. You're like, man, that's pretty sweet. So it's like we've always wanted to be that in rifles.
Yeah. But then they like invest in like their showrooms and all these different places and
it's an experience.
You walk in and they give you a glass of whiskey and it's just like a whole experience from top to bottom. You're like, I know like it's just another pair of boots, but like the whole, like once you take it all in, it's like, whoa, that was a cool experience.
100%.
I'll be back.
100%. And so that's kind of been what we moved for.
Yeah.
Create this space, right? We have one of the coolest showrooms that you'll ever step into. I hope people over time can appreciate that.
Yeah.
How much time that painstaking, development and effort we put in that. Originally, I mean, our first showroom, we were putting railroad ties on the walls and trying to create like a modern industrial vibe.
Yeah,
right.
Like, modern Western industrial. Like what did Old West have? Railroads. What about railroad ties?
Yeah. So just knowing that we've invested a lot in the marketing and the branding side because we want our customer to appreciate and love what we do.
Yeah.
And be passionate about it too.
Yeah.
Right. Like maybe it's not your brand, maybe you don't like love it, but like if you reach for that gun, you're like, man, that's a cool storied gun there.
Mm-hmm. Not everyone's as Western as they like to do. What's the saying? Like, what, all had no cattle or something like that, that's kind of like the deal. And I wouldn't say we're necessarily cowboys or anything like that, but just like resonating with this like outlaw kind of brand and just really like once we got the E right with the barbed wire and just like, oh man, just when you see it, you're like,
there's an E and X there. Every time I look at it, I'm like, we did it.
Nailed it.
Yeah, I'll wear that, right? I got to put those other hats away.
Yeah.
But no, just that part of what we've done, the move, but also the people, right? Like me and you have been in this from the jump. So is Anthony.
Yeah.
Right? Like Anthony's probably one of the most unsung heroes we have in our group.
Oh, yeah.
Been there from day one. And our story's cool because I was actually rehabbing. He was rehabbing Tom and John. We were both in Arizona. And he was like living in this apartment complex. You know, you always have these people that were like, hey, we got some apartments for guys that are here during the summer, right? Arizona in the summertime is smoking.
Yeah.
Right? It's like 115 degrees out there. And so they're not always the nicest setups or whatever. And the pool feels like you're in, hot bath water. Yeah. So I meet Anthony one day and I figure out, he's from El Paso. He's a good kid. He's a left-handed pitcher. He was going to go to LSU and all this stuff, but signed. Mm-hmm. And, we got to know each other, had a good time, and kind of got through the rehab process. Kept his number, and then when you had called me about doing this whole company, hey, we need people. I'm like, man, it's hard to recruit to Uvalde, Texas, right? Just out of the gate,
really looking for loyalty, right?
Loyalty, but people that will be all in.
Yeah,
right. Like the most attractive trait someone can have is be passionate about what they do.
Yeah,
right. And I've always noticed that in people and appreciated that in people. Mm-hmm. And Anthony was always that. He was all in, like baseball until I die, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And when that didn't work out, I remember like, man, I wonder what this guy's doing this day. And I don't know why I had the thought. Yeah. And I just cold called him one day, and I'm like, hey, what are you doing? Yeah. He's like, I'm in Prescott, Arizona, doing landscaping stuff or whatever, and I'm with my dad. And I'm like, do you like that? And he's like, I mean, it's all right. I mean, it's hot, you know.
I don't know if
I was
Arizona
like, hey,
was a choice, but
crazy thought. You ever painted before?
Yeah.
He's like, well, what? I'm like, not Picasso paint.
Yeah.
Like with a spray, like, have you ever painted before? Like we need someone to dive into Cerakote and bedding and be part of our rifle process. Yeah. He's like, I've never shot a gun before. I'm like, perfect. You're the guy.
Yeah. We'll start you from ground zero. And just that's so cool about hiring like new employees, not to, jump ahead of Anthony or anything, but like even people that don't have a ton of experience in the deal, you get to teach them from zero. Right. How it goes. If they don't come in with like preconceived notions of this is how it should be, you're like, no, this is how Exile does it. And it's so nice to kind of really, really get to ingrain that in someone from the jump.
Right. And you don't have to fix bad habits or anything like that. So, yeah, I mean, at this point, Anthony's painted every gun that's ever left our shop.
Yeah.
Right. And all the creative paints that we have, the textures, the layering, the sponge patterns to all the stencils. I mean, you name it, he's done it. Mm-hmm. Been to, Cerakote school.
Yeah, twice. Yeah.
Twice. He's an expert level now, takes a lot of pride in it. Mm-hmm. He does such a good job for us in the creative side of things, but also in being kind of an entrepreneur in his own right. Like how many colors we mix and match that are completely unique. No, they're not.
That's
like
a big part, honestly.
Kyle Brown. Anybody can paint a rifle Kyle Brown. Mm-hmm. What about when we mix in this metallics? What about when we doing all that? And how many just trial and error he's kind of done to get where we are now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all the custom paints we do. Now, like they have anodized scopes now that are like in tans and different colors, and there's no Cerakote color for that. So, you get the mad scientist apron on and you start mixing the colors and, start spraying some stuff and like, that's pretty close. Let's keep tweaking it. And then you finally end up with this recipe and it's like, nailed it, and that's so satisfying whenever you can really tie it all together and like, okay, that's cool. That elevated the whole thing just by tying another concept in. Like, especially when we started the Cerakote, our whole goal was to like create these color palettes and picking a color palette on the stock and like all of our layered sponge and everything, and then tying that color from the stock into the metal and then putting it on the scope rings. And we feel like that pulls the scope into it. The scope isn't an afterthought. It's part of the whole process and just really thinking through everything that we do and tying colors. Like it's such a cool part. We started off with probably, I don't know, 10 different patterns. I couldn't even tell you how many patterns we have now. Right. It's like literally people ask me all the time, like it's almost the hardest thing we have to do is decide on colors. You send people 20 photos and they're like, well, what about this and slightly change it? Like, absolutely. We do it in-house. It's easy to do. So, and all these, some of our ambassadors themselves have challenged us to create things. And, they've seen guns for 5 years and all they want is like something else. Right. So it just constantly
pattern.
Exactly. It just constantly challenges you to stay innovative, stay cutting edge. Like, oh, the carbon fiber stuff is a little played out now, so let's circle back. Right. Let's go back to these duck patterns. Let's go back to some of these cool, patterns that used to be cool, and just stuff like that. Right. It's a really cool process that we do. It's part of the custom side. Honestly, I think like the two biggest things you can change in a custom rifle that really creates it yours is obviously the Cerakote, and then like changing the stocks, getting these different shapes and all that. It just, every one of your rifles seems a little different, and they have different themes, like, oh, this is my West Texas rifle, oh, this is my Colorado elk rifle, and that one's got more greens and this one's got more tans. I don't know, it's just cool to,
you can blend them, you can pick the same base color, like just like the 3 rifles.
Oh yeah, that was cool
that we did. Mm-hmm. All the base colors are the same, but the actual rifle in itself was different colors.
Yeah. We'd pick like a...
Yeah, I mean, you pick the same metal color, same base pattern, but everything on top of it changed, and they were completely different looking rifles, but they all meshed. When they're all in the safe together, all sitting this year, they're like, that's pretty cool.
It's like, oh, here we go. Here's the lineup.
Yeah, exactly. And we've seen so many people build a first, build a second, build a third, and it's usually to check a different kind of box. Hey, I'm a whitetail hunter. Mm-hmm. I want something whitetail friendly. Okay, 6.5 PRC, 6 Creedmoor, whatever we go there. Yeah. Man, I booked a elk hunt. I'm going to Colorado or wherever.
Recommend for that.
Yeah, I need a 27 Tombstone. I need a 7 PRC. I need this. Well, what's your previous color? Let's keep the metal the same color. Let's switch the base color.
Oh, you got a suppressor? You want to move it around? Exactly. Oh, well, tell me the color of that suppressor. We'll match it up.
Exactly.
It's just such a cool, like we talk about those Legos and just the interchangeable parts. And
right. But there's a plan.
Yeah.
There's something at play here.
Yeah, absolutely. And just tying that all in is a really cool.
No doubt. Touch base and tell everybody kind of about the 3 models that we now have that are firm, why they exist, what's important about each one.
Yeah. Our initial one was the Desperado, and it was our baseline. I think it was I think you were building on some Deviants back then, and we really loved it. Obviously, Defiance is like our go-to action across the board. You don't get the extra slop. The machining's fantastic. We get our own variants, out of that. So the Desperado is kind of our flagship, and that's where we found all the accuracy. It's got that integral rail on top. Just eliminates like the extra recoil of like your pick rail coming loose or anything like that. It just solves a lot of those issues. And Desperados are our middleweight kind of rifle. I would say the most popular builds that we build in those are long action magnums, like especially this year, like 7 PRCs and things like that. It's just a really good fit for a little extra recoil. But not all the time the lightest weight rifle is the right choice. And that I think the Desperado's really found its niche of being that perfect balance for a little more high recoiling cartridges. Yeah. And then moving on from there, we have the High Roller. And the High Roller is kind of like my idea from talking to customers and really figuring out like, these guys want a little lighter. They're not building these in long action magnums. They're hunting whitetail. They're hiking more. They're changing elevations and all those kinds of things where a little lighter weight rifle would be a benefit. So it's like, okay, let's use a different action that's a little bit lighter. Let's maybe go with some direct scope mounts. Let's just eliminate as many, maybe not eliminate, but let's change some components that would slightly lighten these up even more, but still having that balanced rifle. So the High Roller is that. It's our lightest weight option.
But most like versatile.
Yeah.
Would you not say like you wanted to be able to, have the ability to hunt something at 900 yards if you needed to be.
Yeah.
You can shoot steel beyond that.
Yeah.
But also be in the shortest, most compact, lightest weight version. 18-inch barrels, 17-inch barrels.
Oh, yeah. That's where we really dove into all that short-barreled stuff, was like really just chasing all the efficiencies out of these short-action magnums or just building a 6 Creedmoor as light as you could possibly build it. That's what we were chasing with like solid components.
And so what would you say the cartridges, you need to touch base on the Tombstone just for our listeners, but the High Roller exists that has obviously a heavy emphasis on short actions. And the short action magnums, you got 6.5 PRC as kind of the top end.
On the factory side.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then why did we do the Tombstone?
Yeah, the Tombstone was like, it's kind of our baby.
Yeah,
27 Tombstone is our baby. And we thought maybe there was a little void in the market of a short action Magnum cartridge that effectively shot 160 to 170 grain bullets. And we set out on this journey of, Frankenstein's monstering this shoulder angles, neck lengths, seating depths, all those kind of things. How can we fit the most efficient bullets that we can get our hands on that are in that weight class that are capable out to 900,000 yards on game, but also building them in 18-inch barrels or 17-inch barrels now.
That was a pursuit. That was the plan from the jump.
That was the plan, and it was just, what can we do to do that? And then we come up with the 27 Tombstone, and we dive in and we create the concept off like 300 WSM brass. But what I say, it took like 18 steps of
to
like
resize and
we're annealing every time to like squeeze the shoulder angle down and change it to like a 20 degree shoulder, 21 degree shoulder, so it feeds really well. You don't run into those.
Longer neck, all those things for accuracy, just based off of good, successful. That'll be another conversation in another podcast, but I just want to make sure that we connected that 27 Tombstone exists for the high roller's sake, because we wanted to maximize what a short action Magnum, shortest barrel possible, like 6.5 PRC obviously is a huge, very successful round. But we want to shoot 160, 170 grain bullets. Like, get the best of both worlds. It should belong here. Anybody that's a 270 fan should love this round.
Well, we took the 270 Winchester, which is uber successful, but maybe not designed for the modern bullets, shooting 130 to 140 grain bullets, and like somehow figuring out a way to squeeze all that performance into a short action was kind of like the ultimate goal.
No doubt. I think we've done a good job of that. And then the last model.
Yeah, and then the Ranch King, that one has changed drastically over the years. Started as a steel barrel fluted, kind of like more of a budget rifle maybe to start with. And then we were like, these guys, the carbon fiber thing is what it's going to, just across the board. So changing the Ranch King into the carbon fiber, and then getting that really cool stock from Manners with the adjustable length of pull. And the awesome thing about that stock is having anyone in your family be able to shoot the same rifle with the same amount of comfort. Right. You can have a 7-year-old kid shoot his first deer with my varmint rifle. Like, that's incredible, just to have that versatility. And we don't build those in long action mags or anything. So it really, like, we call it the Ranch King for a reason. It's your co-pilot. It sits in the seat next to you.
Right.
Anyone in this
seat,
truck,
not halfway in the back seat.
Yeah. No, not all the way in the back. But yeah, short, suppressed. Anyone that's sitting in the truck can shoot that effectively, and just really the perfect truck gun is what it is.
Yeah. So I think, we have got there over the last 5 or 6 years. That's what Exile is built on. We got a brand identity. We got a logo. We need to get this in people's hands. Right. And obviously we still have a ton of our clients that are still back home, in Uvalde, and we can ship rifles anywhere. Right. But just having everything kind of lined up. We always wanted a gun builder. We wanted to be able to tinker, mess with, explore. Like, man, I didn't know a barrel could be cut that short. You're telling me a 6.5 PRC can be an 18-inch gun? How many of those you built? I mean, just touching like what has made us different. You're not afraid to challenge and rewrite certain things that are like, and then just getting into a little bit of the details of like how you've gotten every inch out of every barrel, cutting shanks on some, et cetera. Just knowing in your expertise of like, I can get another half inch here. That's another 4 ounces. I'm going to, and I feel like a lot of times when you start talking about lightweight rifles, people are like, man, I got a 7 PRC in my closet or in my gun safe. It's a 5.5 pound gun. You're like, I don't want to shoot that.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. Like, and it sounds good on paper. You put that on a scale and it says 5.5 pounds. Everybody's like, man, that's cool. But in reality, we're talking about, we had everything. We had the weight scale, we had the recoil measurements, we were typing up sheets and data charts, and we're like, man, this doesn't make sense. No, this rifle with this kind of recoil should not be
you got
less than 9 pounds.
Yeah, you got 30 foot-pounds of energy. Like, who's going to shoot a rifle
not accurately?
That well, whenever it's, you're worried about the recoil. And that's like another thing that like led to a lot of decisions we made of like keeping them suppressed. Like, muzzle brakes are fine. They do an incredible job of mitigating recoil, but then you got the hearing deal. You know, you got to put headphones on and, you know, spur of the moment things happen fast, especially on the side of the mountain. You know, opportunities come and go in a flash, and you're never going to be like, oh, hold on, let me get my headphones on. And then your ears, you can't hear the rest of the day. You know, you're screaming at everyone and they're laughing at you, you know. So it wasn't always the right choice every time to choose a muzzle brake. And the same goes with the recoil. You just want a gun that is reliable, and reliable guns are accurate. And then all that confidence comes with all of that. So really meshing all of these decisions into balanced and very accurate and achievable. You know, these rifles achieve the goals you're after.
Yeah, but also it's like our goal is to have materials. You know, these are the top end components across the market, right? Someday we will get in house with more specific items, but at the end of the day, it's like this is the best that you can get.
Yeah,
we're building it as well as we can. We're proving accuracy. We're doing all those things, but this is a heirloom. This rifle's, you know, in our goal and our vision is like this is your son's rifle. This is your daughter's rifle. Your wife has, you know, had so much experience and loves this rifle. Like we've had so many guys go out there hunting. Their wife goes aoudad hunting, shoots something at 540 yards. Like that's my rifle now.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like oh,
I'll keep taking that. Yeah.
So it's like we have these experiences in, you know, the confidence side of things. They like the way they look. They got to pick everything about them. And when you have passion in what you do, I think that kind of bleeds through. I think people, when they have conversation with you, when they enter a showroom, and they're like, this is cool. This is unique.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we were trying to develop from the jump. So moving on to the move happens. We're here now. It took a while for our building to get finished. We got a really cool showroom. What is kind of our vision and goals in 25? Our competition, the industry in general, and then kind of like just your overview there.
I think the move to Southlake is really just trying to find more people that are looking for good information. I think that's where we excel in the market, of really connecting with people and really getting them in rifles that they want, and not having buyer's remorse or a gun like, it's just so one-dimensional. I just don't know where it fits. So I think, you know, coming to our showroom and having those conversations and really going, you know, maybe taking a step back and going, maybe this guy builds them every day. Maybe why don't we, you know, see what he has to say about something, or being open to come in and have a conversation about it is something that I'm super passionate about. Right. Man, you get me fired up. Like I'll have this whole counter covered up in different cartridges going like, okay, so this is a short action Magnum and this is a little more recoil.
Right.
So it's just so cool to dive into that and really like educate someone. But then, like, we're all working to the same direction.
Right. And then just kind of talking about the competition, who we're trying to compete against, like the
finishing side of all of
it.
Yeah, and like really diving into, you know, people want guns that are fully capable when they leave. So obviously, shooting the cards and proving the accuracy like goes, you know, leaps and bounds beyond what other people are trying to do. You know, and then like, you know, taking those cartridges that shoot really accurately, like the specific ammo, and doing the data collection, and maybe even the dope validation at distance, and getting these custom turrets built to where the simplicity of whenever things start moving fast on a hunt, you can just reach up there and go, okay, 450 yards, and spin a turret directly to it, and just have all the confidence in the world this is nails, because the guys that built it literally went and shot it and proved all this stuff. So it's just that guarantee, that confidence, all those things are kind of built into the process now. So I think that's like the direction of what we're trying to do is completely finish more rifles out, just to instill more people with confidence.
Right. So it's like you want that confidence to come through, but also, you know, our ultimate goal is to make sure that people feel like they're equipped for these hunts, right? When when people start paying to hunt, you know, and I'm not talking about hunting on your family land or your lease or anything. I'm talking about when you go to West Texas, Colorado, sheep hunting, etc., and you start spending $5,000, $50,000, $100,000 on animals, or even, you know, then I think the New Mexico tag not too long ago was $1.3 million.
Yeah, you better be confident in that one.
I mean, you better be ready to roll and hit some steel often.
Yeah,
right. Just because your opportunities, you know, I think people that are new to that, you know, you only have 4 or 5 days on hunts, or you could have, you know, 10 to 14 days if you're in British Columbia or Alaska, et cetera. But there are no guarantees.
Yeah.
The animals are wild.
Yeah.
They don't have to be there. Weather can be terrible. So your opportunity may be 600 plus yards.
that's the best you're going to get.
That's the best you got. He's quartered away.
Oh, don't forget about that 20-mile-an-hour wind that came out of nowhere.
So experience, education, right cartridge, right rifle, all those things matter.
Yeah.
And we have had a ton of people come back to us. Thank God I had this.
Oh, yeah. It's like, wow, I've never had this.
Never had that ability. I mean, he was 550. I had no problem. You know, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's kind of a feather.
Especially like first-time shooters that have never done it before and just getting behind it and being successful. Like, whoa, this is something different. I didn't even know I was capable of that.
But then just, you know, the elephant in the room, our goal, and we haven't been shy about this, it's why we've been bold and why we built the brand to begin with. Like, we want to compete with the best. And the best, you have to be recognized because they've done a good job and they got, you know, 15 years on us. But like we talk about Gunworks, built a good rifle, did an unbelievable job marketing. They've done all the long range stuff out of the box. So we have to, you know, see what they're doing, improve ours. But like you said, I think our quality control, our experience, our one-on-one.
Yeah, knowing who built it.
But also the follow-up of like, did you have a successful hunt? I'm pumped for you.
Yeah.
You know, this genuine, I care about your experience is different. And personally, it's what I would want if I was just a consumer, like in general, if I'm looking what rifle, what company am I going to support? That'd be something I'm like, man, these guys are invested in me. And like, you know, I wish you had more hours in your day, but just every person that comes to the shop, you're like, hey man, like we can set up, you want to go shoot your rifle next week? We'll go shoot 1,000 yards. I'll go with you. And just constantly trying to improve someone's opportunities and success.
Yeah.
And knowing that you're in their corner. And I think that goes a long ways.
Yeah. No, you're almost a tool in their tool belt, right? Like you teach them some skills that maybe they didn't have. How do you shoot off a tripod? You know, any of those skills that you can pick up and be more efficient at and all that, that's just going to translate to more success. Right. You know, like we've, you know, beaten a dead horse at this point. Like the opportunities come and go so fast on this stuff that you're spending money on. And if like you want to shoot the trophy, whatever, they're not most of the time going to be in the best places because the biggest deer and all those things, they're savvy, you know, and just having the tool to, you know, just go achieve that is a
no doubt. Last and final question before we wrap up, but where are we at in the industry? What would you want to hang your hat on? What have you known or proven in accuracy that you were like, this is who we are?
Tough question, right? Like it's so broad. Just hanging your hat on the accuracy of factory ammo, I think is huge. Guys dive in and they'll hand load, and it's like every time someone says that, I'm like, yes, you know, it's just going to be even better. You know, once you take them to that finals or even further step than the factory stuff, just to, you know, just eliminate more and more variables. It's just going to make you more successful at long distances. Yeah. But yeah, I think our spot in the industry is just this super relatable. We're open to have a conversation. We feel extremely dedicated to finding your perfect fit. I think that's where we fit. You know, if I think you're going to build a bad gun, I'm going to be the first one to go out there and tell you all the possible negatives of this. That way, whenever you get your rifle, you completely understand what you got. Yeah. Not that every decision is wrong, and there's trade-offs all over the place. There's no free lunch, though, as like I like to say. You decide on longer length barrels, that's great. You pick up some velocity, you're maybe a little more efficient in the wind, shoot a little further, all those things. But we end up with a longer gun. Are you going to pack this out? You know, It's just trade-offs.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. At the end of the day, it's like when you go to trade-off, I've always been a velocity guy. It's hard to change that guy's mind.
Yeah.
Right. That's probably like your number one ask. Like we almost should do like a Q&A of like, what are the top 3 questions you get asked? But I would say one of them be like, what accuracy do you guarantee? Right.
Yeah.
Would beat accuracy but number 2, wouldn't it be what's the most versatile? And just to open discussion, we're talking about origins. We're talking about where we started. You know, calibers have evolved in the last 6 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're always coming out.
Right, they're always coming out. You know, we got the 7BC in 2025 now. That'll be interesting on what factory ammo is offered, the BC of that bullet, recoil on that bad boy. If it's 3,400, I mean, you might need a 20-inch barrel to burn all that powder. You're right, but we'll track that down.
Oh, yeah.
We'll put you in the best length, best...
there's a fit for it. It's just where does it fit, you know, and just be just the balance of the rifles, making sure the recoil is manageable, the barrel lengths are correct to burn the powders and still be efficient and all those types of things. Yeah, but yeah, cartridges coming out yearly now that are setting the industry on fire, you know, with new innovation and things like that. So it's cool. It's an awesome time to be building rifles because it's constantly changing, and the manufacturing process is so well. Factory ammo has been so much better than it used to be in the past. Like we can grab boxes of ammo and shoot 1/4-inch groups. Like that's pretty outstanding.
Yeah.
To have that for a $30-$40 box of ammo.
I guess in a third question that you would probably say is, especially with our model names not really meaning anything to anybody else. Me and like Desperado was kind of my baby from the jump. I love the name. We're like kicking it all around. You're like, how about the High Roller? And then the Ranch King was kind of always an afterthought. But now that we have 3, convincing models, when you say I'm a whitetail guy, I want something short, light suppress.
Yeah.
You're probably going to get tipped one way.
My mind immediately goes to like, okay, what's the lightest and most efficient way we can do a 6 Creedmoor?
Yeah.
And then we start diving into that. Who's going to be pulling the trigger on this rifle?
Exactly.
Are we going to try to share this thing? But yeah, that's like the models in general is like, they're so different but overlapping in components of like great components across the board that we guarantee the same accuracies and all those kinds of things, but just doing a great job of like having 3 models that super execute certain goals.
Right. And then if you just discuss like the price point, I mean, it's cost of materials, right? Defiance Action in general is what?
Proof
$1,800
research barrels,
Proof barrels, Manners, McMillans, AGs.
Yeah.
I mean, Trigger Techs,
custom paints, like from top to bottom.
You start. I mean, you get what you pay for.
Yeah. And also just like the finishing side of it, of just handing a gun and being like, go hunt. That's super cool. Not everybody values that, but the guys that do, like, how much time did we just save someone by doing all that work for them?
100%.
And like the experts did it. So that's just, the confidence. It's a confidence.
Right.
Whenever you make this leap of faith, you get what you pay for.
No doubt. Just kind of to wrap up today's episode, we would want to kind of make sure everybody knows that Exile is different. Our goals are for the consumer.
Yeah.
We were there first.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I always want to tell people. Like, I did this first. I failed at this a lot.
Yeah.
And it's important for me to make sure, and Cory, our number one goal is make sure you get the right gun in your hands. And that cannot be like more emphasized.
Yeah.
Because you get a bunch of rifles in your safe that you don't really like.
You just
it's
move
tough.
on to the next one,
You're
to
like,
the next one.
Man, I don't love that one. I don't really want to shoot.
Yeah.
Too much recoil. There's guys that have had 7 SDWs. I mean, that was kind of all the rage. They've hunted in Alaska. They've hunted in British Columbia, all that kind of stuff. And after they've gotten our rifles, it's like, I love that gun.
What do I do with this?
But what do I do with it? Because I've had a lot of success. I've shot long distance.
Go kill moose. You do some of
But
this
it's
stuff.
heavy.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily enjoy the recoil.
You're like, man.
It's got a muzzle brake on it.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool what we've done to get where we are. And a lot of that's credited to you on just kind of diving in.
Yeah.
I remember when you took your first couple barrels out and you're like, man, I'm going to start with a 26-inch barrel. I'm going to cut an inch off. I'm going to measure muzzle velocity. I'm going to try different bullets.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep cupping it down.
Yeah.
When does it turn into a torch?
Yeah, exactly.
And like
when did we lose too much velocity per inch that doesn't make sense to cut this down anymore?
Exactly.
That's just our understanding the cartridges and where they excel. You can take a 300 PRC and cut it down to 18 inches. I don't know if that's a good choice, but I'm sure there's somebody that's done it and they love it. But it's kind of that deal. Like I decided to do it, so like I'm never wrong. Like I spent all this money, so it's just cool to kind of have that. That support system to, bounce an idea off of and go, well, I don't know. You could do it. Like, yes. The answer is yes, but should we do it? Right. I think is the more important one.
But I think that's what's cool. I think once people have talked to you the first time, you've walked them through a gun, man, I'll get back to you. You're like, no problem. And people circle back. They did something else the first time. They're coming back and they're like, I trust you.
Yeah.
And that's because you have a plan.
Yeah.
I'm going to be bold. I'm going to be confident when I know.
Yeah.
Is there 2 ways to skin a cat? Yes.
Yeah.
There's more, there's several ways to do it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to, in my research and your expertise, it's like, these are the things that are going to get you where you want to go.
Yeah. We got a ton of experience getting behind guns that we've built and going like, well, I don't know if we'll do that one again. That was a lot, So just all that experience built in of just pulling the triggers on all these rifles and doing like the proof of accuracy, I think has led to a lot of our, I wouldn't say assumptions, but like our proven data that justifies the decisions that we recommend and make ultimately.
To everyone listening today, we just want you to know, hey, we genuinely care.
Yeah.
Exile's different.
Yeah.
We're bold, we're different, have different opinions. It's intentional. We're proud of the product we kind of put out there, and in the next couple of episodes, I'm sure we'll cover, everything from brand ambassadors to a deeper dive into the Tombstone.
Yeah.
Maybe a little more exploration and details on our models and the calibers that are popular in those. But thanks again for tuning in. As always, Exile Podcast, we're out.